I guess I'm just inspired to tell stories. I enjoy music and just the art form so much that it seems like the perfect medium.
Vocal tone, distinctive sonic landscapes, and deep and explorative storytelling. There are many aspects of Frank Ocean's music that make it unique and cause it to have such a personal connection with its audience.
You cut your hair, but you used to live blinded.
Now what connects with you the most probably says something about how you process your music and art. But from the moment I first heard Nostalgia Ultra, it was that story content that immediately engaged me and displayed a commitment and skill that set Frank's work apart. So in today's video, it's this freedom and ability with lyrical and musical storytelling that I really want to dig into. And to do that, we're going to be deconstructing one of his hit songs and trying to pick out some key learning points that I think all artists and creators can take away here. Now before we jump in, if you're enjoying these deeper looks into artists' process, do me a favour and drop a like on this video now to support the growth of this channel. With all that said, hope you enjoy the video and thanks for watching.
Start my day upon the roof. There's
nothing like this type of view.
Point the clicker at the tune.
If I write 14 stories that I love, then the next step is to get the environment and music around it to best, like, I guess, envelop the story.
Now today I want to break down how Frank achieves so much in his lyrics and music, and to do this I thought it'd be great to take one of his seemingly more simple songs and find some practical tips we can grasp from an analysis of the lyrics and structure. The song I'm going to look to for this is Super Rich Kids off Frank's landmark album Channel Orange. So let's jump into the first stanza and see how he kicks it off.
Too many bottles of this wine we can't pronounce. Too many bottles of that green, no lucky charms. The maze come around too much. Parents ain't around enough. Word.
Here we see Frank opening with the chorus from the record, providing us immediate access to some of the clearest lyrics and musical hooks from the piece. Now before we get into any of the structural analysis, let's take a quick look at the language he uses to pull his listener in, and in particular, one of the hallmarks of Frank's music, with the specific and evocative imagery and pop culture references. Bottles of wine, maids, Lucky Charms, Daddy's Jaguar, these are all solid and recognisable details from this opening piece. This is Frank showing his ability for world building at play, as just like the clothing or posters or cars in an old photograph, the collection of these specific details allow the listener to create an immediate and distinct picture of the setting behind this song.
You know, really trying to make a photograph out of something that you can never see. You know, like materials that aren't visible, but still trying to make a photograph. When I'm at my best and when I do my best work, I think that's what I do.
So Frank's placing us in a recognisable world, surrounded by evocative objects and ideas. But as well as this skillful use of language, the opening chorus situates us with an effective and direct clarity, telling you exactly what the theme of this song is going to be. Let's take a look at the last two sentences to see what I'm talking about here.
Super rich kids with nothing. Super rich kids with nothing.
Here we see about as clear a depiction of the theme as is possible, as Frank turns to the audience and tells us exactly what this song is about, providing a solid totem pole around which every other storytelling aspect can be hung. Now turning to the audience and telling them directly what to think like this could become pretty boring and obvious if continued into the rest of the lyrics. But looking at the start of the first verse, we see how Frank uses a perspective shift that immediately sidesteps this pothole.
Start my day upon the roof. There's nothing like this type of view. Point the clicker at the tune. I prefer it to news.
Instead of staying outside of the story and telling it from a distant point of view, Frank is jumping directly into the mind of the main character and beginning to build the central and involving narrative that will take us all the way through this piece. Frank uses a switch in vocal delivery between the chorus and the verse to help signal that shift in character perspective, and just looking at these lyrics written out and the clear techniques on display here in terms of building story, expectations and pictures in the audience's mind, it's clear that Frank is highly intentional with how he builds these pieces setting out with stories and characters at their heart.
You got to make sure the listener is listening to you. And so if you put it in the form of a song, oftentimes if the song is striking enough, then you can really deliver the story.
Throughout the song now, Frank continues to flesh out our understanding of the world and building the picture of this central character. Through vocalising the voice of the character, he is able to develop a classic story structure with a satisfying beginning, middle and end for his audience. Returning now to the lyric sheet, we can see how the final verse serves to wrap up that compelling narrative structure. Frank's character proceeds to be driven to their end, as in an unashamedly epic conclusion. They fall from the roof into their final stylized and inevitable fate, providing us with a closing to this song and Frank's world here, complete with fleshed out setting, developed character, multiple scenes, and a full and compelling story.
It really just depends on what the story is and just getting that lyric sheet to read correctly.
As humans and social beings, we are all skillful storytellers, and many of us will use the techniques of evocative imagery and perspective shifting quite naturally in our work already. But if we learn one thing from Frank here, perhaps it's that we can always improve these natural and intuitive attempts when we dig into what we have on the page or screen and start to try and organise and develop things more intentionally. Taking this approach, it can be interesting to go back and take a look at our previous work, trying to build on our use of language, analyse the different voices we might be using, and think about the major themes we like to explore.
Lyrics should be thought about depending on the style of storytelling you're employing at that time. If you're rewriting Up in Hotel California, you should probably think about it a couple times.
There's many things that we can take away from this breakdown of Super Rich Kids, but for a solid and simple approach, maybe we can try to consciously bring in the use of multiple voices and perspectives in our next creative challenge. This could be as defined as a song like Frank's, in which we use our own voice in the chorus, then jump into a character's perspective in the verse, or a more complex approach, like constructing 2 points of views within an instrumental beat through beat switching, or seeing through the eyes of two narrators in the direction of a short film or piece of visual art. For those of you who want to look further at Frank's work and see how deep he can get on story and world building, a couple of my other favourites would be Pyramids, for its conceptual and experimental approach to character and story, and Bad Religion, for a great example of character voicing and executing on a distinct and compelling concept.
Taxi driver, be my shrink for the hour, leave the meter running.
And with that said, if you have any of your own favourites or any comments or thoughts on Frank's work or the ideas expressed in this series, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below and strengthen the page here by adding your own perspective.
For me, that last record, the Channel Orange record, was just a record that affected me profoundly. Had a real emotional connection to it.
I think it's like pretty awesome when you can hear the emotion that goes into songs, and they can kind of like transport you to like I made up my places where like those what those songs were about, which is pretty cool.
So that's it for the series on Frank for the time being, but if you enjoyed the videos, make sure you're subscribed, and please do consider sharing them with another creator this week. A huge thanks to the artists that have helped me soundtrack this piece, and if you've enjoyed any of the songs on display here, links to all the featured artists are in the description below, so go support the community and check them out. Right, with all that said, thanks for watching. A final thanks to Frank for facilitating all this discussion with his work, and peace in whatever you're working on this week.
Our time to discover a secret seventh wonder.